Good morning, everybody. We do still have a couple people still coming in. Let me see if I can make that happen. I hope this Tuesday morning finds everybody well and not freezing. It's been unusually cold down here in Mobile. I know you would laugh at how cold it is. It's like, I don't know, it was 40 this morning. I know it gets far, far colder up in Oklahoma. We'll go ahead and get started, everyone. First, I want to thank you all for coming today and taking time out of your busy schedules. This is Beyond Code Construction Benefits, and I will be your instructor. My name is Sonia Sheffield, and I'm the Technical Outreach Director for Smart Home America. And Jasmine Valentine is our project coordinator, and she will actually be proctoring today. There'll be a couple quizzes, and she'll be the one taking care of that. I just wanted to let everybody know that this class is brought to you by the Disaster Resilience Network. That is your local nonprofit that you can rely on for information specifically about resilience in Oklahoma. And of course, Smart Home America, that is where I am from. We are also a nonprofit, and of course, State Farm. I also want to give a quick thank you to IBHS and DRN for slide material. So this is going to be our first poll. Jasmine, if you could put that poll up. So the question we always ask is, which house would you rather live in, house A or house B? And for the field that everyone here is in, which house would you rather insure is also an apt question. So just wait, that poll will come up in just a second there. I hope we have it. Is it not working? There it is. Okay. So home A or B. And everyone said home B. That's an easy one. I mean, knowing which home you would rather live in is that's a no-brainer. So these houses were actually built at the IBHS, which is the Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety, and we'll talk about them a little bit. These houses were built inside their testing facility. And the next thing we're going to show is a video. The only difference between these houses were built in, I believe it's 2011. They were built to code, both of them. The house that did not slide off of its foundation has an extra $3,000 in strapping, hurricane sort of strapping. That's what we call it down here, but it's really, basically structural strapping. And they put these houses up against wind. And this is what happened. So that last house that's barreling towards the camera, that was unexpected. And that was actually quite expensive. So our class goals today are to demonstrate the need for beyond code construction. We're going to talk about terminology, methods, and the principles, the ideas about this beyond code construction. We're going to share some resources and links for you to reference. And we will also discuss benefits to clients and to producers. So please use the chat box to ask questions. I'll try to keep an eye on it. I don't always see it, so don't expect me to stop right away. Sometimes it takes me a second to see a question in there. We will monitor the chat box and address questions periodically or possibly at the end or during breaks. Please let us know if you have any technical difficulties. To receive CEU credit, you must attend the entire program and participate. You will need a piece of paper and a pencil or pen for a very brief exercise. This exercise is very short. It is very informal. You can do it on a sticky note or the back of an envelope. Don't worry about having anything fancy. The class is recorded and we will take 2 5-minute breaks. So let's get started. So studies show that 2/3 of homes are underinsured in this country by an average of 17%. What does that mean? Well, a $200,000 home is uninsured by $34,000. So that means if a home is completely destroyed by any kind of event, a lot of homeowners are left holding an average of $34,000. Most people don't have that in the bank. They're not going to completely recover, or they're going to struggle to completely recover. 75% of businesses are not insured or underinsured. That is a huge number. The average that they are underinsured about is 40%. And 40% of small businesses don't reopen after a disaster because of this. This is our vision. We are looking to make houses and entire communities more resilient. This is a Habitat for Humanity house. This house survived Hurricane Michael. Now, Hurricane Michael in 2018 was a Category 5. That's a big, strong, powerful hurricane. And there were 5 of these homes built, and one of them had just a little piece of siding loose. Those homes are ready for people to get back in and recover, and you can see the destruction around those homes. And the thing is, we know what to do. We know what to do to make these houses more resilient and to weather storms better. These houses are all intact, but take a look at the roof. And we see roof damage during hurricanes, during straight line winds, during tornadoes. All of these things can give you significant roof damage. So there, you can see all of that roof damage. The roof damage is what allows water to come in to the roof and damage the inside of the house. Smart Home America, people think about smart home and they think about how the Internet of Things or being connected to Alexa or your Ring camera on your door. But what we really represent is creating, building, retrofitting homes that can resist the wind. They can resist the wind-driven rain. They can resist the rising water. And they are adequately insured. And they are adequately insured because once you build a home that is smart, it's going to be easier to insure. It's going to be less expensive to insure. Once all those things are in place, then it's great when you can make your home more energy efficient and possibly greener. And then you can also have all the Internet of Things. You can have your Ring camera and everything else. So Smart Home America exists to give you the information to educate your clients, homeowners, and other people in your community so we can all make small steps towards more sustainable and resilient homes, businesses, and entire communities. So homeowners and business owners are our ultimate targets, but we get to them by educating the stakeholders in the community. And our focus is people like you, the insurers, who are absolutely critical to resilience because you are the ones who help homeowners pick up the pieces after a disaster. And we want to make you better able to do that. So building resilience from the ground up, our job is to help you understand how you are one piece in the larger resilience machinery. So if you start there in the center, we have insurance. So insurance, including State Farm, funds the Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety. That is the research arm of property insurers. And then they come up with the science, and then we take it and bring it back to you and explain it. And the idea is eventually this goes all the way to the community and the state. And we'll talk about how all these things interplay. So let's talk a little bit about the Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety. We work closely with IBHS. IBHS is also a nonprofit. They are funded by the property insurance industry. They do research on how building materials and methods resist various disasters. This is the test facility that we saw the 2 houses in. So this is the test facility. IBHS's mission is to conduct objective scientific research to identify and promote effective actions that strengthen homes, businesses, and communities against natural disasters and causes for loss. Because they are funded by the property insurance industry, their goal is to lower claims. And the best way to lower claims is to make a house or a business more resilient, so there doesn't need to be a claim. So IBHS has been researching damage to roofs and its causes for over 20 years. For the past 10, they have had the capability of that big research facility you see in the back that has 105 6-foot fans that can create winds up to 130 miles an hour. So IBHS does focus its research on wind, hail, rain, especially wind-driven rain, and also wildfire. We will not be talking about wildfire today, but that is something else that they are focusing on. As of January 1st, 2022, nearly 33,000 homes have been built or re-roofed to the IBHS standard, which is called Fortified. And we'll get into more detail about that. As you will see later, these homes have performed admirably in hurricane force winds and hurricane wind-driven rain. Just as a little aside, this map only shows Fortified Home Program designated homes. It does not show Fortified for Safer Living, which is an older program that is no longer designating homes, and it also doesn't show Fortified Commercial. Okay, so let's talk a minute about building codes, mitigation, and resilience, because this is kind of going to be the foundation of what we're going to talk about. So what is a building code? A building code is just a collection of regulations adopted by a permitting authority, usually a county or some kind of municipality, a city or town. And these codes work really well. This is a great example. This is Hurricane Harvey. These are a great example of how building codes are meant to work. These are houses that all went through Harvey, and you can see how the more recent the building code, the better the house fared. So at the bottom there, the house from 2017 is pretty intact. It's possible, depending on how that roof covering was put on. You can see the metal roof completely blew off. So there's no more metal roof. And okay. So I've been told there's red lines on my slide, so I apologize for that, and I'm not sure why that would be. I'll try to correct that at the break. The 2017 house did great. The house that was built in 2000, pretty much a total loss. Interesting how the house from 2000 and 2001 fared so differently. The house from 1972, there was nothing left but walls. But the house from 1970 that was retrofitted in 2008 actually did pretty well as well. So just to cover loss events, there's been a lot of information in the news about wildfires in the last couple of years, and they have gotten worse. But the number one cost is what is called meteorological events. So those are tropical storms, extratropical storms, convective storms, which includes tornadoes, and local storms. So a building code, those building codes, they work. They absolutely work. You see the houses perform better, but it is a minimum standard. So remember, your local building code is the minimum legal standard that a house can be built to. So even if those building codes are well enforced, which they aren't everywhere. So if you have a great building code, but they're not actually going out and inspecting it, it's like having no building code. Even if building codes are well enforced, roofing is often not addressed. And this is very problematic because a lot of damage comes through the roof. Hail damages the roof. When shingles are blown off, you can get rain. That's where you start to get leaks. So if you can keep a roof intact, you will actually really minimize a lot of the damage. Up to 90% of insurance claims annually are roof related, depending on the year. It's between 70 and 90%. So these houses are all look like they're in great condition, but you can see their houses went through Hurricane Michael. So the building code worked, but look at the debris in front of these houses. These houses, nobody's living in these houses because even though the house itself is intact because the roof leaked, they're not livable. The whole inside of the house is damaged. So we can absolutely go beyond that code. Here is an example of beyond code construction at the local level. The adoption of the coastal code supplement along Alabama's coast closed the gap between existing code and the fortified, that's the IBHS standard. The supplement is meant to be adopted and enforced alongside a local building code. We have also created an inland construction code supplement, and we really are hoping to replicate the success we've had with the coastal code. So what about Oklahoma? What kind of codes do you see here? Okay, so after the Moore, Oklahoma tornadoes, Moore, Oklahoma created a high wind amendment. It was adopted as an addition to the 2009 code, because that's the code they were on at the time. It increases the resistance to damage from tornadoes and high winds. It requires garage doors to be rated to 135 miles per hour. And we'll talk about the importance of garage doors. Requires ring shank nails in the roof deck. Again, we'll talk about the importance of this, but it does not require a sealed roof deck. So just remember that. That does not require a sealed roof deck. Remember what I said about code not not addressing roofing often. Okay, so Appendix Y. This is another part of Oklahoma Building Code. In 2016, Oklahoma Uniform Building Code adopted Appendix Y. It was adopted along with the 2015 code. It went into effect November of 2016. Okay, so what does it do? It increases resistance to damage from tornadoes and high winds. But again, it does not require a sealed roof deck or ring shank nails in the roof deck. So again, the roofing is not addressed. Okay, so we've talked about building codes. We've talked about how building codes are the minimum. They absolutely work, but they're the minimum, and we can go beyond that. We can do better. So mitigate. What does mitigate mean? We've all, especially in insurance, we've heard the word mitigate. It literally means to become less harsh or less painful. That's what the literal, to mitigate a patient's suffering, okay? So where have we heard the word mitigation before? So the Insurance Services Office, ISO, and mitigation. So what are some things that you can talk about in terms of mitigation? I know that hail rated shingles are a little bit controversial right now. We're going to talk about why that is. But that's a form of mitigation. Whether or not the house is close to a fire hydrant, you can get lower rates because there's a fire hydrant right there. Your house is far less likely to burn down. There are all kinds of different things that you can use as mitigation when you're writing insurance for somebody. One of the things that ISO looks at is called BSEG. So it's the Building Code Effectiveness Grading Schedule, which is why it's called BSEGs, because that's way easier to say. So we talked about the importance of building code, but literally what I'm going to read this word for word. What ISO says is municipalities with well-enforced, up-to-date codes should demonstrate better loss experience, and insurance rates can reflect that. So the more up-to-date your code is and the better that it's enforced, the lower your insurance rates can be. Just period. That's how it works. So the traditional response paradigm has been, we build it, it gets blown down, and we build it back. Because when you have a disaster in an area, the goal is, people don't have homes, businesses are closed. We need to get everybody back in a house, and we need to get things up and running as quickly as possible. The problem is everything tends to be built back the same way. Even going as far as sometimes not even requiring permits to be pulled temporarily to just get things going. The problem is the next time a disaster comes through, everything's going to be blown down the same way. So we want to offer a new paradigm. It is proactive and goal-oriented. The goal is aiming for 0 to limited damage, and this is the important part, immediate reuse of structures after a disaster. Intentional resilience wants to have sunny day retrofitting, which means ahead of the storm. So you're not waiting until after your roof has been blown off. When you replace your roof the next time, you make it better so that the next time a disaster rolls in, you don't have to have your roof replaced again. It is affordable. Intentional resilience is not the most expensive way to go. It does not have to cost substantially more than standard construction. Existing materials and methods can absolutely be used. It's ultimately community-wide, because if only one house survives, that's not really resilient. Excuse me, that's not really resilience. If you can live in your house, but none of your neighbors are there and you can't go grocery shopping and you can't get any food to eat, that's not resilience. Resilience, we want resilience to be community-wide. So I've been talking about the word resilience a lot. So what does that actually mean? It literally means, if you look it up in the dictionary, so imagine one of those stress balls and you squeeze it and it comes back. That's literally what resilience means. It's a strained body able to recover its size and shape. But it also means the ability to recover from misfortune. So what is resilience? And there is that one house. That house is incredibly resilient. So you can see everything around it has been completely wiped away, but that community is not resilient. This person, where are they going to get their groceries? What are they going to eat? Where are they going to even drive to? This community is not, that particular person is resilient. This is not the kind of resilience we're talking about. We're not talking about that one grand house that cost $1.2 million that survived everything. That's not really sustainable. We need everybody's structures to survive and be able to continue, for the entire community to be resilient. So our vision is resilient communities, and a smart home and a smart business is resilient. This reduces spending, actually. Think of all the debris that you could save from the landfill and from the cost of, community picking it up. It keeps your income tax base and your property tax base in place, because people are not unhoused and they have jobs to go to. And because they have jobs to go to, your local economy keeps going. That is true resilience. So this is Hurricane Sally. And Hurricane Sally hit last year, well, it's actually almost gonna be 2 years this year. It is September 16th, 2020. And it was a category 2, and I'm gonna explain what that is. The problem with Hurricane Sally is it was really slow. It went about 2 to 4 miles per hour. Now, there are a lot of fortified homes in coastal Alabama. We were kind of the pilot project. There were almost 17,000 fortified homes or fortified roofs, and we'll talk about the difference when Sally hit. So Sally was not, it's not what we would consider a really strong storm, but some people sat in the eye wall for 8 hours. So when you go through a hurricane, it's sort of like going through a tornado. You get into your interior walls, preferably in a bathroom, maybe in an interior hallway, and you have blankets and such over you. For 8 hours, these people were in there. It was a really long storm. Having gone through it, wow, it was long. But how did those 17,000 structures fare? 95% of them did not have enough damage to even make an insurance claim. Okay, that is amazing. And we saw a lot of damage from Sally because it sat on top of us for so long. So research alone will not drive down losses until we make this available to consumers in a way that it actually gets picked up and used. But you can help us amplify those tools and put them into homeowners' hands. So this is Moore, Oklahoma. People can easily identify the center of that tornado. You can see where the center went. We cannot prevent all damage, and that is not what Fortified is trying to do. We are not making disaster-proof houses, but we can make this destruction better. We can make it less, And this out here on the outer edges, we can completely eliminate that. We can prevent this damage. So this is a comparison of EF rating and the Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale. So here's tornadoes and hurricanes. So we have EF zeros, and that's approximately a category 1. EF ones, again, approximately category 2. And Sally was a high-end category 2. So she was like right around the 110 with gusts up to 130, but not sustained winds. So IBHS engineers believe that they can eliminate damage from structural damage from EF zeros and EF ones. And they can minimize the damage from an EF 2. So let's take a look. This is, again, Moore, Oklahoma. So this is the path. This entire path of a tornado is very much like a hurricane. On the outside, the winds are not as strong as they are on the inside. So this band shows the EF 0 winds. This is the EF 1 winds. Now remember, IBHS engineers believe we can eliminate damage in that area. This is EF 2. And again, IBHS engineers believe we can minimize damage in that area. Now, the rest of this, the EF 3, 4, and 5. Now, 5 is hard to see, so I'm going to take everything else out. So those are the 2 spots that where the EF 5 winds were. So tornadoes, like hurricanes, are named after their strongest spots. So if a hurricane hits as a 3, it's going to weaken to a 2, but it's still considered a category 3. Same thing with a tornado. Those are the only 2 spots that were EF 5s, and let's just say, thank goodness. But that is still an EF 5 tornado. So we are not saying that you can resist all of that damage, that a house is going to be fine. There still is a great need for tornado safe rooms. So we will still need to have those sorts of things. But this is the EF 4 and EF 3. That's going to be damage that's, going to be hard to completely erase from Fortified. Again, there is a definite need for safe rooms. But this EF 2, and then these are the 0s and 1s. This is damage that can be eliminated just by using fortified construction. So here are some numbers for you. Again, that's the damage that there'll still be damage in that area. So what does that mean for Oklahoma? So this is information that was compiled by the National Weather Service, which is part of NOAA. And I just want to point out the EF zeros, and this is between 1950 and 2016, and EF ones, if you add those 2 numbers up together, that is 74.1% of all tornadoes fall into EF 0 and EF 1. That's a big chunk. So we're talking about eliminating damage from these tornadoes. So if you add the EF 2s, which is what we can minimize damage, that 18.8%, we are up to 92.9%, almost 93% of tornadoes. We can really minimize a lot of that damage. Of course, the EF 3s, 4s, and 5s are still significant. It doesn't mean that we need to ignore that. We do need to also have things like safe rooms in houses, absolutely. So let's do a quick review. Okay, IBHS, the Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety, they do the research and create the recommendations. Smart Home America, we educate stakeholders, including you. Building codes are critical, but are minimum standards. They do absolutely work, but they are the minimum. Mitigation and resilience does affect claims and insurability and rates, and we can create better outcomes by building better. So this is going to be your first quiz. Let me find it. So I'm just going to read them real quick, but go ahead and start answering them if you know the answer. True or false, Smart Home America provides grant money to insurance providers to help their clients re-roof? Second one, true or false? When a new house is built to code, you know you are building to the industry's highest standards. And last question, true or false, communities must wait for catastrophic storm to wipe away existing buildings in order to benefit from new resilient construction methods. Okay, still waiting on a couple more people. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. Okay. And I did get a chat from one participant that said true, true, true. So I got that. Thank you. Okay, so let's walk through each one. Smart Home America provides grant money to insurance providers to help their clients re-roof. We wish we did. That one is actually false. And this, you don't get a grade. These are participation points, so it's okay. It would be fantastic, but we are actually a small nonprofit, and we would love to be able to do that, but unfortunately we do not have the funds to do something like that. When a new house is built to code, you know you're building to the industry's highest standard. This is actually false as well. It is the minimum standard. Now, building codes are going to vary from place to place, neighborhood to neighborhood, community to community, but they are your local minimum standard, and we can always go beyond that. So communities must wait for a catastrophic storm to wipe away existing buildings in order to benefit from new resilient construction methods. That is also false. We can absolutely do what's called sunny day mitigation, where we are retrofitting buildings before storms come through. Okay, so here is our quick little interactive, it's not a quiz, but little exercise. So everybody get your piece of paper and your pencil, and we're gonna do it's just fun, it's kind of silly. If you have a camera, be prepared to turn it on briefly. If you don't worry about it. So the prompt says ready, set, draw. So what we're drawing, and you're going to have 15 seconds, I want you to draw your dream house and go. Okay, stop. Everybody put your pen down. Okay, let me make it so I can see people. So if you have a camera, turn it on and you can share. You can see my little, let me see. Oh, it's not cooperating. I have a green screen, so it's not cooperating. Yes, okay. I see yours, Gabriella. If you can turn on your green screen, please do, or turn on your camera. Okay, see a couple on here. So the whole point of that exercise, as silly as it is to say everybody had a chance to draw a roof and walls. And that is what we're talking about when we're talking about resilience. We're not talking about the granite countertops. We're not talking about the hardwood floors or the vinyl floors. We're talking about the integrity of the envelope of your structure. And at the beginning, I said the difference between those two houses was about $3,000. It's probably gone up a little bit if you're just doing no storm strapping versus adding it. But what are the cost of upgrading from laminate to granite countertops? And most people don't flinch at something like that. And the smaller the house, the less money it's going to cost. And if you're retrofitting just a roof, it's going to be even less than that. So I want to leave that here. We're going to take a break. It's just a 5-minute break. So I'm going to set the timer and I will see everybody back here in 5 minutes. Thank you. Okay, welcome back, everyone. So we've talked about beyond code. We've talked about IBHS. So the IBHS researched beyond code construction method is called Fortified. Okay, so let's now delve into Fortified. What does fortified mean literally? Okay, so where have you heard the word fortified? We have fortified wine, which has more alcohol in it, good or bad, depending on how you feel about that. Fortified breakfast cereal, which has vitamins and minerals added to it to make it better for you. You can have a fortified structure like a castle that has walls around it to keep it from being attacked. Those are all ways that we use the word fortified. It means to enhance something or to make it stronger or more secure. That is why they use the word fortified for their construction method. So lab tested, real world results. So let's talk about some of this. So what is fortified? So first of all, we're talking about a beyond code construction method here. Fortified is voluntary. The actual fortified program is voluntary. It is a program that contractors and builders can participate in and offer their home buyers or business owners, if you're doing commercial, third-party validated protection against severe weather that goes beyond the standard building code. But that third-party validated, that's the important part of this. Fortified has two geographic appropriate standards. One is high wind, which is inland, and one is hurricane, which is coastal. Each of them has 3 levels: roof, silver, and gold, and we'll talk about what each of those levels is. Each builds on the lower level. So you cannot have a fortified gold house without qualifying for fortified roof. You start with a fortified roof, and then you can go up to silver if you add other things. You can go up to gold if you add yet more things. And we'll talk about this, but gold is pretty much for new structures. And now it's 33,000 homeowners are enjoying the peace of mind that comes with living in a fortified home. This is a tested system. Let me just take a look at our participants. New and existing homes. So what are eligible houses? We're talking specifically about houses. Single family detached homes, duplexes, townhomes, a townhome being defined as something where what you own is from the ground up to the roof. So nobody is living on top of each other. Okay, not an apartment home. Townhomes and even manufactured homes are eligible. There's a lot of caveats with manufactured homes. They must be built after July of 1994. They must meet HUD Wind Zone 3 standards, and they must be permanently secured to a foundation. So, definitely some extra things there. Property types not eligible: any home on a dry stack foundation. What is a dry stack foundation? A dry stack foundation can be just rocks piled up with a house built on it. Seen it? It can be cinder blocks. And you see that with manufactured homes. They're up on cinder blocks, but those cinder blocks are just stacked on top of each other. In South Louisiana, we see a lot of homes up on their little concrete cones, but they're just sitting on those cones. They're not attached to them, and those cones are just sitting on the ground. They're not really a foundation of any sort. Mixed use and commercial buildings are not eligible for fortified home. They're eligible for fortified commercial. And multi-unit residential condominiums and apartments are also not eligible for fortified home. They are eligible for fortified multifamily, which is a brand new standard that just came out this month. So by the numbers, this is, as you can see, it goes back to 2011, and 2021 is where it ends. So just last month. And you can see the number of gold and the number of roof. So the roof is in green, the gold is the outside. So there are more gold, more new structures, but roof is catching up. And my guess is roof will surpass as homes get fitted with better roofs along the coast and in areas where they have roof damage from tornadoes. There's a little tiny sliver of silver in the middle there, and we'll talk about why that is so small. So designations have really picked up in 2020. Remember, there's 33,000 roughly. In 2020, there were 7,000 designations. In all of 2020, 7,282. In March of 2021, there were over 1,200 designations in 1 month. So that's a result of people having a fortified roof put on after Sally. Okay, so fortified versus not fortified. So remember, fortified, the traditional is focus on life safety. Okay, so the houses on the right, those houses were built that they survived the storm. They absolutely did, but they're damaged on the inside. You can see the siding sitting around. You can see the damage to the roof. Those houses are probably not livable on the inside because water has intruded and there's damage inside the house. The house on the left is fortified. So we have a focus on life safety and property protection. And that property protection is what drives those rates down and those claims down. So the goal of fortified is to not just have the building survive, but to have it reusable in a short period of time. So this is just a breakdown, and we're going to focus on fortified home high wind. So the fortified roof, which is, remember, it's a 3-tiered system, is just focuses on the roof. Fortified silver adds gables, and we'll talk about that. Attached structures, which are your porches and attached carports, garage doors and chimneys, and we're seeing that garage door again there. And for gold, it's the load path, and we'll talk about what that means. So let's break it down a little bit. So for fortified home high wind, the fortified roof is going to keep the roof on and the water out. You have enhanced sealed roof deck and a high performing wind rated roof cover. So what that means is if you do lose shingles, you're less likely to lose shingles. And if you do lose shingles, your roof is still not going to leak. Also, because of the way it's renailed, you're unlikely to lose your roof deck, that's really important. So to go up to silver, you're going to reduce what's called a damage amplifier. And we'll talk about why these things are damage amplifiers. Basically, if they get damaged, your whole house is much more likely to have catastrophic damage. And those are the gable walls. And the gable is the peak. So you can see this house has 3 gables on the front, those peaks there, where there's a wall going up to a peak. So you're strengthening that area, your garage door openings, you're securing your chimney to the house so it doesn't get blown off, and anchoring any attached structures, which are your porches and your attached carports. And for gold, you're keeping the entire building intact. You can see those lines going up and down where your house is attached to the foundation, and the foundation is attached to the walls, and the wall is attached to the roof. Okay, we also have available a hail supplement. This adds an impact rated roof cover, and so if it's asphalt shingles, they must meet the good or excellent rating by IBHS, and we'll talk about that shortly. So this is some damage. This is typical damage that we saw during Hurricane Sally. So you can see in the middle there, this is roof damage. One of the things that is not allowed for fortified is roofing over top. You can only have 1 layer of roof covering. So here, metal panels are put over shingles. Time and time again, research shows that 2 layers just does not perform well in the wind. The house next to it, just to the left of it, had lost roof decking. So it just blew away in the storm, and fortified, definitely answers to that. On the far left there, you see something that would be addressed at the silver level. That's that gable that got blown out by wind. And then on the far right, you have a window or a wall that's blown out. That is something that would be addressed by a continuous load path. At the end of the day, though, what the research shows time and time again is the damage starts with the roof. Once the roof is damaged, the rest of the house is much more likely to be damaged. So this is a quick little video that shows man on the street. What do people think is on their roof? And these are real people that they just randomly went out and talked to in the streets.
What is on your roof?
Shingles.
Like general roof, I mean, I don't see anything special.
I don't know.
My grandmother had shingles. I know it's genetic.
Protect from
Weather.
the rain, weather, you know.
This sounds like a trick question. This is a trick question, right?
This is not a trick question.
Keep the roof dry.
I don't know, I feel like divert heat or something.
False. False.
True. True.
False.
The answer is true.
I go false.
Is she always right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
I heard like 25 to 30 years.
I think probably like 4 years.
10 to 15 years.
It depends on where you live.
10 to 30 years is what they're supposed to last.
I think I was getting gypped on my shingle guy.
80 miles per hour.
110.
I don't think I'm even close to the strength of a shingle. I would think that I can beat a shingle in like an arm wrestle.
There are 3 things to consider when installing a new roof. If you want a stronger, better roof, check out Fortified Roof. Second, the optimal time to install is during spring or summer. And lastly, you have a choice when it comes to what is on your roof. For more, follow us on social media at Disaster Safety using the hashtag What's on Your Roof. It's a stress ball.
Bro, dude, I got a stress ball, bro.
Okay. So that stress ball, if you were paying attention, that is actually a model of a hailstone. So remember, we talked about problem, the roof. 90% often of damage, of payouts, are because of roof-related damage. So the roof is responsible for between 70 to 90% of total losses in a given year. Roofs routinely experience mild to severe damage during high wind and hail events. So what can we do about this? So here is the basic overview. We're looking at the inland fortified home high wind fortified roof is the very first thing that we're going to talk about. And this addresses only the roof. We're only looking at the roof at this point. So what do we need to do? Fortified roof. The 3 basic tenets are nailing it down. We're keeping the roof on with ring shank nails that are spaced 4 inches apart. We are going to seal it using either, there's different ways to do it. This picture shows roof duct tape. You notice what they're doing is the gaps in the plywood or the OSB is going to be covered with the tape. So if you do lose shingles, it's not going to leak. There's a couple of different ways to seal a roof deck, and you're going to lock it in. So on the edge of this roof, you can see a drip edge. That is actually going to hold everything underneath it down and help prevent the roof from flying up, from being blown off by winds. So if you can keep that edge locked down, that means that you're going to minimize the chance of losing shingles in an event. So what we're going to watch next is a video. This is a water intrusion video. And this was also done in the research facility. Yes. So once the roof covering is lost, this is a duplex. It's 1,300 square feet. It's divided in 2. The only difference between the 2 sides is one side has a sealed roof deck. You can see the black tape on the seams, and the other side does not. So the question is, this is 8 inches of rain per hour hitting this house. So what happens? How much rain actually gets in? Well, about 7 bathtubs an hour. So imagine dumping that into the attic. That is what it's going to look like on the inside. You can see the rain is just coming in. It's just coming in through those little gaps. There's no decking being lost here, but it's pouring in through the light fixtures. So again, this is not a house that has lost any decking. These are just the little tiny gaps, and look at all the water that's pouring in to this house. So what happens on the interior when that happens? Well, this is what happens. Your ceiling collapses. So this house is not able to be lived in. When you have a roof leak like that, it's not able to be lived in. And a roof leak can be something that happens later. You know, you can have damage and you start to have this leak, and we've all seen this on the inside. This is the side that had the sealed roof deck. That's the only difference between those two sides. And I want to point out, you saw a little bit of insulation on the floor. That was from them pulling down the attic steps to crawl up and take a look and see if there was any, you know, moisture in the attic. So the approximate cost to seal a roof deck of a 2,000 square foot home is about $500. It's pretty inexpensive. So this was originally done in 2011. This is adjusted to 2020 inflation. So the damage estimate is $6,000, roughly a little over $6,000 on the side with the sealed roof deck. Okay, yes, there is damage to that roof. That roof took a hit, but there's no damage on the inside. The damage on the side without the sealed tape was $19,200 and some. That's a lot more money. It's not quite 3 times, but it's more than twice. But the thing that is not being taken into account, this is just straight up damage. What's not being taken into account is displaced homeowners and anything that they're spending extra to drive to and from work if they're further away now, take their kids getting to and from school. And, you know, in a really bad event, they might not even be living in their community. That community might permanently lose that person if they, let's say they relocate someplace else and they just don't want to come back then. It's not worth it. They're settled, you know, because as we know, it takes months, if not years, for communities to recover from really catastrophic events. And some people never come back. And that is a huge loss for a community. This is actually a second test that was done. It was repeated, I think, in 2017. And again, sealed roof deck, no damage. You can walk in and live in that side of a duplex. Not sealed roof deck, you can't live in that. That's not livable. So when it comes to minimizing damage from high winds and wind-driven water, we know that little things really do make a big difference. So ring shank nails, that's the first thing in that picture. You see the little rings on those nails. Using a ring shank nail will double the uplift of a roof. It takes twice as much pressure to pull a roof off, okay? Those cost about $100, $150 a house. And there's your roof deck tape. And then over top of the roof deck tape, they want to have another layer of protection that's nailed down just as an extra protection. And the last thing they show there is a hurricane tie. It's actually called a hurricane tie, but it can be used anywhere, of course. Those are not required for fortified roof, but it is something we'll talk about later. And those things are inexpensive. These are not expensive things to add to a house. Okay, so let's talk about the hail supplement. And I know that some of you, when watching that Roof 101 video, and they said roofs are supposed to last 10 to 30 years, depending on the type of roof and where you live, that is not the life cycle of roofs in high hail areas. So let's talk a little bit about the hail supplement. So the hail supplement, so remember, Fortified is third-party validated. So this is not, what the beauty of it is, you don't have to go out and confirm what was put on the roof. Nobody has to go out and do that. This is done by IBHS. They confirm what was put on that roof, how it was put on. So the hail requirements, a steep slope impact rated roof covering or low slope, depending on the slope of your roof. They're going to make sure that the product that was put on is meant for the roof that it's put on. They require impact rated skylights. And if you have a lot of solar systems solar cell panels that you put on your roof, impact rated photovoltaic systems as well. So let's talk about hail rated shingles. So IBHS did a test. Now, remember, IBHS is funded by insurance companies like State Farm. Hail rated shingles have not performed like they're supposed to. And they were probably the biggest payout for insurers. And just so everybody in the room knows, the largest purchaser of shingles in the entire country is not the biggest builder in the country, it is State Farm. So that's who purchases more shingles than anybody else in the country. And I'm sure nobody in this room has trouble believing that. So IBHS was asked, IBHS is generally product agnostic. They do not recommend products. They test products and they recommend methods to best use products. But they said, we have got to look at these shingles because these shingles that are supposedly hail rated they're not performing. What is going on here? So they actually got together with the roofing industry and they told them they were going to do this. And they went to, local supply houses and Home Depot and Lowe's, and they pulled these shingles off the shelf. They did not get them from the manufacturer. These were all hail rated shingles. And then they tested them. So to get a hail supplement, your shingle has to have a good or excellent rating. Okay, so you can see that the first, next to each brand, the first thing is the overall. So you can see that 2 shingles did not make the grade. So if those shingles are installed, you cannot get a hail supplement. Now, I do believe more testing is being done on more brands, but these are the brands that have been tested so far. So be aware. And somebody did ask me in the chat, will you guys have this as a resource? And yes, this whole slide deck will be made into a PDF and will be uploaded when you under resources in Thinkific. Okay, so these are the shingles that have to be used for the hail supplement for Fortified because they know how it works. So if you're using something other than shingles, so you see for shingles, excellent or good rated impact resistance test, clay and concrete roof tiles, there is a specific standard. It's FM 4473 class 4. I don't expect anybody to remember that. And again, there's another one for metal panels, the UL testing. Those are tests that are actually done on these products to make sure they are impact resistant. So that is what's required for the hail supplement. So we've talked about Fortified Roof, and I'm very briefly going over all of these things. So the next level is Fortified Silver. So what do you have to have Fortified Silver? You have to have that Fortified Roof in place. So that has to already be there. And you're going to add these things: gables, attached structures, remember porches, and attached carports, garage doors, and chimneys. So we're going to very briefly just talk about a couple of them. Chimneys can detach. And when a chimney detaches, water is going to pour in. It's also when there's a big hole in a roof because your chimney has completely blown off, then wind can get in that roof and is more likely to lift that whole roof up and cause catastrophic roof damage. Gable ends, again, those peaks are vulnerable to failure from wind. Garage door failure, and we're going to specifically talk about that one. Garage door failure actually can lead to catastrophic failure of the entire structure. So when that garage door fails, it's just the whole structure can go. And attached structures, which are your porches, if they detach, imagine if the front porch of your house becomes detached during a tornado, what's it going to do? It's probably going to, blow right into your house and create all kinds of damage. That's why these things are called damage amplifiers. If they fail, then your house is much more likely to sustain catastrophic damage. Okay, so this is a picture of a garage door that failed, and you can see that back wall blew out. So not great. So I'm going to show you a video next that shows garage door failure. And there's a demonstration. It's a kind of like a cartoon at the beginning that has some text, but at the end, take a look. There's actually an actual video from one of the tests where garage door failed in their testing facility, and take a look at what happens to that house. So when that garage door failed on that house, that whole wall became just like it's like waving in the breeze there with the windows in it and everything. That is the kind of failure you can see. When your garage door fails, your whole house can fail. So it is a very important piece. Attached structures. So again, we're talking about porches and carports. Basically, everything needs to be tied down and have storm straps or hurricane straps. So you want to have the beam or the column, the post to the foundation, and that same post to the beam or wall above it, and then that beam to the rafter or roof. So this is a short video that shows, this is a common carport that's attached to a manufactured home, and this is 80-mile-per-hour wind. This is a common one. It's not attached in any special way, and you can see it rips that whole roof off when it comes off. So they did another test with the Fortified one. This is at 110 miles an hour. You can see it's not going anywhere because it's been properly connected. So it makes a huge difference. So I'm not going to go over every single aspect of that. So we've gone, now we're going to go to Fortified Gold. So we've got the Fortified Roof. To get to Fortified Gold, you have to have Fortified Roof. You have to have all the aspects of silver. Okay, so they're all in place, and now we're going to go to gold. So now we have that engineered load path. So an engineer does need to be involved in most cases. And that, I mean, now you realize that's kind of that is definitely a hiccup for some communities that don't require any engineering. I believe for high wind, there are some other prescriptive things that can be done. If you have people who are interested in that, please let me know and I'll get them in touch with the correct people. So what is a load path? So this is actually a short little video that will just demonstrate what a load path is. So it's a continuous load path. So remember, continuous meaning from the foundation all the way up to the top.
Properly tying a house together to create a continuous load path will make it much more resistant to both uplift and horizontal wind forces during high wind conditions, as shown here. The roof must be connected to the walls. The upper walls must be attached to the lower walls. The bottom story must be connected to the foundation. The sill plate, which runs horizontally along the bottom of the walls, can be attached to the foundation using anchor bolts with oversized washers or other metal connectors. Note the large strap at the corner that anchors the wall studs directly to the foundation. This provides a critical connection at the ends of the wall. The bottom of the top wall must be secured to the top of the wall below. The wall studs are connected to the sill plate, which runs horizontally along the bottom of the walls. Again, note the large strap at the corner. This provides a vital connection between the end of the wall above and the end of the wall below. Metal connectors are used to attach the roof framing to the top plate, which runs horizontally along the top of the walls. It is important to make sure that the metal connectors from the roof structure to the top plate and from the top plate to the studs are on the same side of the wall, as shown here. All exterior walls and the roof need to be covered with structural panels that can be made of plywood or oriented strand board, for example. Be sure to include sheathing on areas around openings for windows and doors. These panels greatly increase the strength of the house and will keep it standing strong when high winds blow.
Okay. I don't know if anybody picked up the emphasis on the corner straps. Notice the large strap at the corner. And the reason for that is the corners of houses and of roofs, anything that has that corner has wind coming from several directions and is under a lot more pressure. So let's review. So damage progression begins at the roof. If you can keep the roof intact, you can actually prevent a lot of damage. Fortified doubles the strength of a typical roof. There are 3 designations: roof, silver, and gold. And each of those designations builds on the one before. So to get to Fortified Gold, you must have all the aspects of Fortified Roof and silver in place. Okay, here is actually, I think there's one more quiz. Here is quiz 2. Jasmine, I hope that you're able to get to the polls. I've done it right this time, we'll see. Yay, there it is. So true or false, to be designated Fortified Gold, a building must first meet the roof and silver levels of designation? And the second question is, a strong roof is the most important variable to preventing damage to a home during a high wind event. True or false? And if you can't get to the poll, go ahead and put your answers in the chat. Okay, I think everybody's answered, Jasmine, because it's not going to be 100% excellent. Okay, and if you could share those, we'll talk about them. Okay, true or false? To be designated fortified gold, a building must first meet the roof and silver levels of designation. That is true. People are paying attention. The way fortified works, because that damage progression starts at the roof, which deals with my second question, you always have to have a fortified roof, no matter what level. A strong roof is the most important variable to preventing damage to a home during a high wind event. This is true. If you can keep the roof intact, the house is much more likely to not have damage. So thank you so much, Jasmine. Okay, so we are now going to take another 5-minute break. So set your timers for 5 minutes and I will see everybody back here in 5. Okay, everybody, we are back. So we have talked about Fortified. We have introduced Fortified. We've gone through all the levels. We've talked about the importance of excellent. I see a message from Jeff that says, Randall Young ensures a fortified home, probably one of the first ones built around Tulsa. That is awesome. Thank you so much for letting me know that. But let's now talk about Fortified, the results that we see in the field from Fortified. So this is actually a structure. This is a neighborhood that went through Sally. This is in Orange Beach, so it's very close to the beach. So these people sat through 8 hours of eye wall. Again, this is the equivalent roughly of an EF1, but it lasted forever. So the home in the center is fortified, and the homes on either side were not. It doesn't look like they had a lot of damage. The building code worked quite well. The homes are intact, but there was so much damage in the house from water coming in that those people are not living in their homes. Notice the campers. This is where people are living. So the yellow house, again, we saw this picture before. This is a fortified home. It had no damage. All the homes next to it had damage, and people were not living in most of those homes because of the interior. So we are going to actually hear some testimonials. This is the homeowner of the first home that you saw in that neighborhood. And I just want to say one thing. He has a fortified roof. This home was not built for fortified gold. It was re-roofed to fortified roof standard.
You know, one of the biggest blessings that I've been able to see is myself not having any damage because I have a fortified roof, and I didn't have the need for tarps, and I didn't have the water and storm damage. As I've been able to use my time that I had when I would be working on my house to help others. And that's one of the biggest things people need right now is help. You know, knocking on doors and meeting some of your neighbors for the first time saying, hey, what can I do to help? And you know, putting tarps up and taking carpet and furniture to the road. I've been able to, me and my family, we've been able to help others out because we didn't have any damage. So definitely feel blessed.
Okay, so that's a fortified roof in action. And here is a second testimonial. And I really like to include this one because that neighborhood, those houses were relatively new. So that's a relatively recent building code. So how does a fortified roof hold up on an older home?
It really works. People said it sounded like a train, but I didn't hear anything. I was confident that my roof was gonna hold up, and it really, no shingles or anything fell off my roof. It was just like nothing had never happened to it. But there's people that didn't have a fortified roof. Their shingles came off. And that made me feel very blessed to have a fortified roof.
Okay, as you can see, a fortified roof absolutely makes a difference even on an older home. These are houses from Ida. Ida hit last year, this past hurricane season. It was category 4 when it hit. This is Grand Isle. This is right in dead center in the eye. And the house in the foreground is fortified gold. It was built to fortified. And the house in the background obviously is not. The houses that were built fortified did fantastic. This is the 9th Ward. We've all heard about the 9th Ward where Katrina hit. These houses went through Ida, and the house in the center that has the fortified logo over it is a house that was re-roofed. This is not a fortified gold home. This is fortified re-roof home. And this is the last proof point. Now, this looks, I'm sure, very familiar, but this is actually Hurricane Ida. On the right, this is, you have a structure that was not actually completely finished. These two structures are half a mile apart. These are both affordable housing. These are apartments. This is multifamily. So we have not really touched on these. It's not under fortified home. This is fortified commercial, which fortified multifamily is part of. The homes on the right were not complete. They're about 90% complete. Hurricane Ida put them back about 3 weeks. They did not have their air conditioners tied down, so the air conditioner, all that had to be replaced. But the houses themselves, the structures themselves, they were fine. You could have walked into that and lived in it. On the left, that structure is not okay. You cannot live in that. And I'm sure even on the other side, you can't live in that. That is the difference that Fortified makes. So FEMA, USDA, FBA, and HUD all recognize Fortified. They do not call it Fortified. They are not allowed to use private market terms. They call it P as in Paul 804, 804. It mirrors Fortified. USDA, HUD, and SBA all state that P804 is encouraged, and SBA says any small business that uses P804 can get a 20% increase in funds in their loan. That's no small potatoes. So the feds do recognize it. They have a hard time sometimes, and we help them get that message out too. Nonprofits, Team Rubicon, that's your ex and retired military. Habitat for Humanity, both use, when they rebuild and re-roof, they do to the Fortified standard along the Gulf Coast. SBP was born out of Katrina. That originally stands for the St. Bernard Project, but they are everywhere now. They're actually a very large nonprofit. They do build to Fortified standard and they re-roof to Fortified. So let's talk a little bit about the Fortified designation process. A Fortified designation process, remember we talked about third party. The third party is IBHS. So how does IBHS get all of that information? How do they say, well, you know, they're the ones who have to verify what roof was put on? Well, you use a Fortified evaluator. And this should really be the first point of contact in Fortified projects, if at all possible. A Fortified evaluator is licensed by IBHS, but is independent. They do not work for IBHS. Only a licensed Fortified evaluator can submit a project for designation. Because each agent is independent, rates do vary. So I wanted to give you this information. I did have a question, and I really, really appreciate you guys giving me questions like this beforehand. Your local Fortified evaluator. So, okay, who do you have in Oklahoma? Oklahoma does not have a ton of evaluators yet. I'm just going to put these first two up here. Trefoil Engineering Service, Charles Schneider. That's his phone number. He's in Oklahoma City. Patriot Inspections, Thad Brawlier in Tulsa. I have spoken to both of these gentlemen. They are both still doing Fortified evaluations. So everybody else in the state is probably wondering, what about me? What about, you know, if you're outside of that area? Oklahoma is a big state. Pilot inspections. This is who you need to call. There is a 1-800 number for Pilot that I got permission from Jody Stanley. That is his phone number. He is just over the border, but he actually handles Pilots Oklahoma, and he has inspectors everywhere in Oklahoma. And he said, I will make it work. He said, I can make it work. So no matter where you are, and again, you'll get a PDF of this. Everybody got an email this morning. My email is in there. If you don't see the PDF or you have trouble with it, you can message me and get these. Okay. These are the people you want to contact. Okay. We are working on getting more Fortified evaluators in Oklahoma. It is a slow process. It's a little bit of a chicken and egg problem. You know, when Fortified hasn't taken off, it's hard. You know, people don't want to do the Fortified. They're like, I don't want to be a Fortified evaluator. There's not enough demand for it. But it's hard to create demand when you get the idea. But we're working on it. So the designation process is you contact the evaluator, ideally first. You choose a roofer or a builder. You take action. You start your building. You start your re-roofing. You're working with your Fortified evaluator. Yes, Timothy asked, isn't Pilot a big company? Pilot is a huge company, and you can call their 1-800 number, but Jody Stanley is the person who works for Pilot, who organizes. So he's basically the head of all of Oklahoma. And he's the one who has the guys on the ground and can put you in touch with the correct person. Anyway, so you're gonna re-roof, you're gonna build your house. And you can do, your evaluator is going to be working with your roofer or your builder and making sure everything gets done right. They're going to document things. You'll get your final evaluation. And so they're going to verify how your roof was put on or how your house was built. And then they submit everything for designation. So Documentation is really, 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 really important here. Without documentation, you can't get a designation. This is usually photographs. It can also include product information, labels from products used, and those then data sheets are pulled, and that's something your evaluator will do. There's all kinds of different ways you can pull all those data sheets that show, what kind of testing was done on them. And these are the compliance forms that your evaluator will help a roofer or contractor fill out. So this is actually an evaluator working on a roof, and I want to assure you that is not a new roof. That is actually an existing roof. He's, helping a roofer figure out what needs to be done. So the evaluator, the components that are required by Fortified, by IBHS are verified and documented. IBHS reviews documentation, issues the designation. This is the designation. This is what it looks like. This is actually a hurricane designation. That's the little hurricane symbol there. The high wind looks like wind and cloud, so it look a little bit different. So a Fortified designation lasts for 5 years. So why 5 years? Why so short? So you can get a property redesignated. This is really important. So it lasts 5 years. Why? Why does it last 5 years? Because in 5 years, we all know the amount of damage a roof can take. And what they're looking at, they're not going in the attic to see if you have a fortified gold home, they're not trying to see if all the straps are still there. Nobody's going to remove their straps. They're looking for a couple of very specific things. They're looking for the kinds of, remember we talked about the roof and the walls, and what Fortified is concerned with is not the granite countertops, but the envelope of the building. The Fortified evaluator is going to make sure that the envelope of the building is the same, it hasn't been changed any, and that it hasn't been re-roofed without a Fortified evaluator being there. So if you have a Fortified roof and you get your house re-roofed, and let's say you had a tree that went through your roof and it has to be re-roofed. So it's re-roofed, but there's no Fortified evaluator there. How do you know that it was re-roofed correctly? Well, you don't. So this is part of the thing. You always want to have a good relationship with a Fortified evaluator. These are the reasons that it's done every 5 years. So what are some things that make a home ineligible for redesignation? So a lot of these are just for gold. So additions constructed without an evaluator involved, because again, you're breaching the envelope of the house. So if you have an addition on your house, you need to have a Fortified evaluator involved. If you have a gold house, you want to make sure the addition is gold. Even if you just have Fortified roof, very rarely does an addition happen on your house without touching the roof. So you need to have your evaluator involved. Enclosing or adding porches or carports is absolutely included in this. Even if you have an existing porch and you enclose it, you are changing the envelope of your house. So when you're modifying that envelope in any way, you want to have your evaluator involved. Re-roofing or repairing without an evaluator, replacing doors or windows. Okay, so the adding a doggy door and replacing doors or windows, you guys can scratch that off the list. That's only for hurricane. You guys don't need to worry about that. So, and you'll be happy, because people are not happy when they find out that they put a doggy door in their door and now they can't get gold Fortified anymore. So that's something you don't need to worry about, because it's only for hurricane areas. But installing solar panels without an evaluator, that's one of those things that's problematic in certain places and other places not at all. So who can do the work? Contractors, home builders, roofers. You can find certified roofers on the IBHS or Smart Home America websites. You do not have to have a certified roofer. You do have to have a Fortified evaluator though. So this is our site, smarthomeamerica.org/services, and you can search for evaluators, roofers, engineers, and this is IBHS's site, so that you can find a provider there. So this is Fortified Wise University. And I just wanted to point you to this because they have some free courses. If you are interested, or maybe you know somebody who you think might be interested in being a Fortified evaluator, you can point them towards these free courses. If you do have somebody like that, certainly who's interested, please send them my way and I'll get them started. But these courses are completely free for anybody to take who might be interested in the roofing. But you can see there at the top, there's evaluator courses and roofing contractor courses. So let's say somebody says, my house is fortified and they want their discount. So how do you determine, is that house actually fortified? Is that like, how can you verify that? So there's a couple of things on that fortified certificate. Let me go back for a second. You can see that little gray spot there. That is actually a QR code. That QR code can be scanned by your phone and it will pull up the IBHS website and it will give you information. And what you want to look for is, does the address of the home match the address on your phone screen? Because if so, you're good. You can call IBHS and that phone number is on the screen, or you can use their website contact form. It's fortifiedhome.org/contact. And in the field, you can just say, I need to know whether or not this home, and you give the address, is fortified and at what level. But as insurance agents, because IBHS is funded by property insurers, I am going to encourage you to set up an account. You want to go to ibhs.org/fortified-database. So you're going to choose a username, first name, last name, company name, and your email. Now, I want to point to your email. You need to use your State Farm email for this. You can't just use, like, if you have another email that like goes over to your State Farm email, you cannot use that. You have to use your State Farm email. It is not automatic. They are all vetted. But once you have an account, you will get to this screen where it says member exclusives, and you will be able to put in the street number, street name, and okay, so it requires street number, it requires street name. My advice is, like, if it's Main Street, put Main. You don't have to put street, just put Main, because is it ST? Is it spelled out? You don't know. And it's particular. And you also have to put the town. You don't have to put the state or the zip code or anything, but you have to put the town. But yeah, you can abbreviate, just put like Main instead of Main Street, and it will still find it for you. So now we're up at the last review and last quiz. So let's check on time here. I know I always, oh good, we're good. So the review. Fortified evaluator is absolutely critical to the process. You cannot get a designation without a fortified evaluator. Fortified can be used on new and existing homes. A designation needs to be renewed every 5 years. I know that seems short, but you can find a list of contacts at smarthomeamerica.org. Okay, on to the quiz. Jasmine, if you want to slap that last poll up there, that'd be awesome. And I'll just read through these real quick. Hopefully she's not having any trouble with it. Let's see. Okay. True or false? To get a fortified roof, simply contact a roofer who completes the work and issues a designation. True or false? Fortified standards are only applicable to new construction. And the last one, true or false? Fortified designations last 15 years. So we'll give everybody a couple seconds to answer all of those. Okay, still waiting on a couple more. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. Okay, so to get a fortified roof, simply contact a roofer who completes the work and issues a designation. This is actually false. You must have a fortified evaluator involved. Only a fortified evaluator can submit the information to IBHS, and IBHS is actually the one who issues the designation. Fortified standards are only applicable to new construction. This is false. Everybody got that one right. Excellent. This is, you can retrofit a house to fortified. Fortified designations last 15 years. Unfortunately, they do not. They last 5 years. I will say one little side note, getting a fortified redesignation is way cheaper than the initial designation because it's much simpler and it's much less paperwork. So that is That is something to know. Okay. We're in the home stretch, folks. It's always hard to convince homeowners to protect what is priceless. And they don't think it's going to happen to them until it does. What makes a house a home? It's the memories inside. It's not just the four walls and the roof. And that's what we're trying to protect, is the whole thing. And there is nothing sustainable about a home that ends up in the landfill. This can drive some people, but most people are moved by money or other incentives. So let's take a look at those things. What are some mitigation incentives? Okay. The first one is having a fortified designation increases a home's value by nearly 7%. This is a study that was done a couple of years ago, University of Alabama, Auburn, and University of Mississippi. There was a study done recently that backed this up. These homes are known to be stronger, they're more easy to insure, and it increases the value. So let's talk a little bit about Oklahoma specific mitigation incentives. Oklahoma does have insurance discounts. So in 2017, there was a bill that said admitted insurance companies allow discounts to homeowners who build fortified home or equal or greater standard. So it was introduced in February of 2017. It went into effect in April of 2018. Homes must be certified by a building inspector and a fortified evaluator for fortified home, or by inspector for Appendix Y. So remember, we talked in the beginning about Appendix Y and the state code. So if they have been built to that code, then they're good. Oh, thank you, Alan. It's no problem. Don't worry about the fact that you didn't get to submit before the survey was closed. I got your message. So let's talk about some very specific fortified home discounts. Oklahoma residents can save up to 42% with fortified home high wind and hail. And this is what we see. So you can see it varies a lot depending on the insurer. And so the rates, and this does not mean that every single home will get that 42%, even from that carrier. You're going to see a range depending on the age of the home, the level of fortified. But it's still, it can be a significant discount. So let's talk about some specific things. And so I am going to let Tim talk here for a minute. Let's see. Tim, I don't know if you have video or not, but if you can unmute. Everybody, this is Tim Lovell. He is with Disaster Resilience Network there in Oklahoma. So Tim, if you want to talk about this slide and give some other examples, I would be very grateful.
Yes, I'll do that. As she said, I am Tim Lovell, Executive Director of the Disaster Resilience Network. We've been working with IBHS, I think since our inception in 2000, 2001, and have been working with Smart Home America almost, I think, since their inception. So what we have here are examples of homes that were almost to the beginning of the incentives, where they offered or set up the incentives for building these homes. We actually had 2 State Farm homes, Fortified Gold, that got major discounts. And these were more than the averages of 30% that you saw on the previous slide. One of them was Aaron McCree, who was in Yukon, Oklahoma. He was working in the capacity as a private builder. Some of you may have come across him as someone that works for Habitat for Humanity in Oklahoma City. But in this case, he was working as a private builder and got a 44% discount from State Farm. Actually, the homeowners did. The other one, which was for 35% and not shown here, was in Ramona, Oklahoma. And that was built by John Madden, who is a star for us here in Oklahoma in terms of building. It has been recognized by IBHS for his building efforts here in Oklahoma. The other one we have listed here is from Shelter Insurance, July 2019. As you can see, he is quoted as saying that he was able to get a 12% quote for a fortified roof. The reason why this is so important to us in using these insurance incentives and why it's so important to us that you are attending this class is since the incentives were put in place, we have found a number of insurance agents that are unaware of these incentives within their own companies. And it's not just State Farm. Across the board, the insurance agents are unaware of them when people come in and ask about it. So we're trying to get the word out to agents so that they're aware of them and we can build a platform where agents, roofers, builders can all work together to offer these discounts across the board here in Oklahoma. And we have a network to really promote this. And DRN, Smart Home America, IBHS, all want to work with the residents here in Oklahoma and the companies to make sure that our consumers here in Oklahoma are aware of this discount. Is there another slide that I need to speak on, or are you?
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so, Tim. Thank you so much. And I'm so glad that you were here and able to join us today.
Okay, very good.
So everybody, that's Tim Lovell. He is your local resilience guru. So all of this boils down to protecting your book of business. So remember, cross-selling is key to keeping everything going, to making your business the best it can be. You can cross-sell, depending on where you are, flood insurance, life insurance, recreational vehicles, rental, seasonal, other types of properties. I want to just touch briefly on flood insurance. Over 20% of all flood insurance claims come from outside flood areas, outside high-risk areas. So that is always something to keep in the back of your mind, that some places, just because they're not required to have flood insurance, some people should still have flood insurance. So what is the resilience benefits to you? Well, you write better risks. You know that the properties have been professionally verified and audited by IBHS, by a third party. It has the potential to lower your costs through claims. So congratulations, folks. We made it to the end. Just have a couple of resources at the end here. We have gone through the principles, processes, terminology of resilient, specifically fortified construction. We've talked about the options and consumer benefits of beyond code construction, how those properties have increased insurability through reduced risk of loss. We talked about the levels of the program designations and the opportunity to lessen error and emissions exposure. So we went from this old paradigm where you recover, you rebuild, and then you mitigate, okay? What we're trying to do is move that mitigation to the front. We're trying to do sunny day retrofit, sunny day mitigation. This is ideal. This makes your whole community more resilient. So here are your resources. This is DRN's website. I highly recommend it, disasterresiliencenetwork.org. And Tim is a great source of information. We have, Smart Home America has 2 Don't Goof sites. Don't Goof When You Re-Roof has a lot of information about re-roofing and why Fortified is so important. Don't Goof Floodproof, don'tgoof.org/flood, actually educates people about flood risks, how to mitigate their homes, and it's also meant to assist communities with education about flooding and associated risks. This is our homepage, smarthomeamerica.org. And I just want to remind you that Fortified Wise University. And here are the resources, and a PDF will be made of this to send out to everybody. So I do have one final poll. If everybody could let us know how likely you are to recommend Smart Home America to a friend or colleague. Very likely is 10, and not likely is 1 or 0. If you could, we appreciate your time filling that out, because it means that we actually submit all of this information to our funders, because we are nonprofit. Comments are absolutely appreciated and taken into account. So if you have comments, you can put them in the chat as well. I really appreciate your time. I just want to remind everybody that if you do need to reach me, you have my email. Let's see, only 56%. I'm going to go ahead and go on to the next. You have my email. This is my email. Please feel free to keep answering that poll question. Sonia@smarthomeamerica.org. If you guys have any questions, follow-up questions about this class, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. We'll try to get a PDF of the class up and running as soon as possible. And I appreciate everybody's time, and I appreciate everybody being here and taking time out of their day. Everybody have a lovely rest of your week.